Hello everyone, welcome back. This is a new lecture in your course Git and GitHub by Avionics. My name is Ahmed, and in this section we are going to discuss your first steps using the version control system Git. Now, the first thing you have to do after you have installed Git is to identify yourself to Git. And by identifying yourself, I mean that you inform Git about your credentials, about your username and email address, because Git is going to use those settings in doing several things that are related to your project or your repository. You are going to identify yourself to Git in order for Git to use this identity when working with the several repositories that you are going to create. So the first step is to issue the following command: git config ---- global user dot name, and then your name, for example, Ahmed El Fakhrani. Okay, and then another command, git config ---- global, and this time you're gonna type user dot email, and you're gonna type your email address. Okay, now you can start creating a local repository to start working with Git. And if you are wondering what a repository is, a repository refers to the collection of files that are related to a specific Git project. A .git subdirectory is always in the root directory. So let's say that we are going to create a web application, or even just a website, a static website, a very basic website containing just 2 pages. Maybe we can add more if we need to. And this web page will only present a static message to the client, to the user. Let's call this application greeter, and let's create the necessary files for this application. So the first thing we're going to do is that we're going to install the Apache web server if it is not already installed. Okay, it's already installed. So let's have a look at /var www.html, and let's create a directory called greeter that will host our directory files, that will host our website files or web application files. Now, the moment you create greeter and you intend to use this as the location or as the directory containing your project files, this is your Git repository. Now, this can be transferred to a repository by using git init command. Again, a repository is the location that contains all the files and directories that are going to be used in your project. So until you use git init, this is just a directory. This is just a Unix or Linux directory. It contains no files and it has nothing to do with Git. However, after you issue this command, git init, you will see that this message has appeared: initialized empty Git repository in /var /www/html/greeter/.git. And if you ls-la here, you will find that we have this .git directory. It is a hidden directory because in Linux and Unix systems, if a directory or a file name is preceded by a dot, this means that it is hidden from file browsers. So if you browse to this directory using any file browser, like for example Nautilus, you will find that this directory is hidden by default. If we navigated inside this git and ls, you'll find that we have a lot of important directories and files that Git uses to organize your repository. Okay, and notice that you can use git init without being explicitly inside the directory that you created. So for example, I can get back to my home directory and I can use git init followed by the path in which I want to create my project file or my Git repository. So I can use git init to create /var /www/html, and I can create whatever directory I want here. Let's say test, for example. This will create a directory called test. Notice that test was not present before. This directory test was not present in this path. However, this command git init has created this directory. Let's have a look here. Okay, now we have 2 directories. We have test and we have greeter. Okay, and this test was created automatically by our git init command. And also inside the test directory, you will find a similar .git directory or subdirectory, the same thing that happened in greeter. So git init can be used in both of those ways for your convenience. You can use whatever way that is easier for you. Now let's get back to our project, and inside Greeter, as you can see here, there are no files, so we need to create some. Now before we create files and directories in our website application and start working, we need to know how Git tracks the changes in your project. If you remember from the first section when we discussed the merits of using a version control system, and that one of the most important advantages that version control systems offer is the ability to track the changes and restore the changes that happened in your project files. So how does Git manage those changes? In Git terminology, a commit refers to instructing the system that some changes have been made to the project. When changes are made, like adding, deleting, or changing the contents of files or directories in the repository, those changes are added to something called the index. The index, think of it just like a staging area or a preparation area in your project or in your repository. It is where the changes are pending to be committed. It is where the changes are just being reviewed by you, the developer, before being permanently committed to the project. Okay, so in your directory, in order to see this process in action, we are going to create an empty HTML file that will be called index.html. So let's do this chat, then index.html. And index.html is the default web page for any website. It is the default web page that appears as soon as you navigate to the root path of any website. Index.html by default is considered by Apache as the default page to be displayed if no other page has been requested by the client. So this might cause a little confusion for you. This index.html could be any other file name. It could be any file. And using the techniques that we are going to learn later in this lecture, we are going to track the changes that happen to this file. But it does not necessarily need to be named index.html. And of course, don't confuse index.html with the index file that we have just discussed a few moments ago. It is the staging area or the preparation area in which Git stores the changes that you made to files for your review before deciding to commit them. Again, index.html could be just any name. Now, let's start adding some HTML. If you're not familiar with HTML, it's okay. It is the language by which web pages are written. It is how you view the web page in the browser, the way you view it, with all the colors, the images, the underline and bold text and other visual effects that you see in a web page. They are written in a language called HTML, and you are not required here to be familiar with HTML or even to know how to write HTML. Just think of it as some text being written to a page that we need to track. Okay, so HTML head Okay, so this is a very simple HTML page inside the Greeter directory. Let's just ensure that it is working as expected. Let's start our web server. Okay, and let's have a look at our browser. And if we just navigated to the IP address of our web server, of the server that we're working at, and type /creator, and notice that because we did not enter here a file name, we did not enter index.html, the web server Apache automatically serves the index.html file because, as we said, it is the default web page if the client did not request another one. So this is the HTML that we have just written. Maybe there is a typo here. Let's quickly correct it. There is an extra bracket here. Let's remove it. Okay, let's refresh. Okay, fine. This is our web page in very simple HTML. In the coming lecture, we're gonna see how we can make changes to this file and track those changes using Git. So see you next.